you call it, a body worker. Somebody in my Feldenkrais training said body work is what they do at automobile shops. That's not what we do. We have to find another word. I like psychophysical. And did you ever do anything else before that?
I was a flight attendant for 11 years, and I was always interested. I actually started flying when the injury that got me, I stopped dancing, it was an ankle injury to my right ankle. And so I stopped dancing and went into being a flight attendant. And after a year, I wasn't happy doing that. Something was wrong with the picture. So then I just started taking dance classes again. I take classes here and there. Susan Klein and school dance. And did some upper country art.
So, tell me what you do know about the Alexander technique.
What my feeling is that it's a lot of work with the spine. When I think of Alexander work, I think of lengthening the spine. I have this feeling of up and being very very specific. It's a real fine tuning and fine way of working with energy. There's some things that are a little bit more gross, and it doesn't feel like. That's what I have. I have this image of his Alexander work being really about a lengthened spine and a lot of air. And
that's part of it. Yeah, we're all full of a little hot air around here. Do you know anything about Alexander himself? How he came about doing this? What compelled him to lengthen his spine and get air?
Then he had an injury. It's been very fascinating for me because most people who seem to get into work have had their own difficulties they've had to work with. I just vaguely remember hearing that was, Alexander and Moshe Feldenkrais and Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen. They all had their things that they had to work through. So.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a little bit about it because his was rather specific. He was an actor, and he recited Shakespeare, which was very popular in those days, and he began losing his voice, which is, as a dancer, if you begin losing your knees, you can't dance. And so he did what anybody would do. He went to see doctors, and they gave him lozenges, and they gave him spray, and they told him not to use his voice. And he rested his voice, and then he was fine, and he'd get up on the stage, and he would lose his voice again. And he, after exhausting the whole medical profession in London, where they said, this is it, we can't help you anymore, he somehow got the idea that he was doing something himself that might be causing the loss of his voice. So he set up a chair, and he began watching himself move as he prepared to speak. And he saw that he did something that he called shortening, which is throwing his head back, which pressed the larynx, which, compressed the vocal cord, which pressed his lower back. And in order to maintain that kind of posture or that stance, he actually curled his toes. So he decided not to do that. But when he decided not to do that and put his head in another position, he found that he still, when given the stimulus of getting on the stage, went back to the old habit. So that he realized he had to stop that habit before he even attempted to do something else, which is part of what we call ambition, which when we're working, that we'll address that. And think instead of not pressing down, but what he called the primary control, which was to direct his head, to let his spine lead him into whatever activity he was doing. And he did this he watched himself for 9 years. You have to really be very intense, have a lot of intention to do that. But that's what he did. And out of that came some very positive things for him in his whole way of being, and he became very popular, and actors and actresses came to see him, and people came to see him who had other kind of difficulties like back pain or whatever. So the whole concept is that when you're not contracting or using an unconscious habit to make any kind of activity and go back to just thinking in a particular way, that movement becomes more balanced and free. So I would like to start doing a little work with you around that, okay? You don't have to take your watch off. It's okay. You don't have to take anything off.
Okay.
In this work we actually don't require a special uniform or anything because this is something we want to do in our regular lives. So if you're wearing a business suit or a dress, you might even want to be able to do this in relationship to your whole life. That's how it's done. So, Roxanne, I'm going to ask you to stand in front of the chair, looking out the window, and you're going to sit there. The way we're going to work is I'm going to put my hands on you, and I'm going to talk to you. And you don't have to do anything. Just be here. My hands are a little chilly. So when I put my hands on, and Roxanne, I'm going to ask you to keep your eyes open. Because there, again, whatever changes occur, we want them to be in relationship to our life. So it's useful. So if you recall, I said that out tension in the neck, that means the neck is, and the head and thought can move lightly up and forward, and the whole torso can lengthen and widen. Now these are just words, and I don't want you to do anything about that. It's a concept. It's a thought. And we say that in the Alexander technique, the thought is the act. I say it. I use the universal meaning. And I'm just putting my hands on to just get a sense of how you've organized yourself and give you an opportunity to feel my hands. So, again, just think of doing nothing with your neck. So let your head move slightly up in space so your whole spine can lengthen and widen. And just get a sense of my hand. Do a little bit left, right. Now just move the chair away, because we don't want you leaning against the chair for support, because you're going to learn to support yourself on your own. And I'm going to ask you to take a wider stance. Now the wider the stance, and we may even exaggerate that, because most of us stand with our feet together. And when your feet are close together, you have a narrow foundation, so that whatever patterns you have, you're not as likely to give them up. So when you have a wider stance, you are much more balanced. So it's as if your hips are moving over your feet. You can even take a little bit of a wider stance. Right. So here's your head, and here's your back, and I'm just giving you a sense of your whole organization. And you're going to think again, if you will, that you're going to let your neck release, that's nice, and your head's going to move in thought, lightly up and lightly forward. And as you're thinking that, I'm going to ask you to sit in the chair. Now wait a second, don't do anything yet. You don't have to be a good girl and a baby. Just come back to thinking this idea that when you sit in the chair, you're going to let your head lead you in motion. So, I'm going to ask you to sit in the chair. Sitting in the chair is a purely mechanical act. You need to let your knees bend, your hip joints will go back, and you're going to let yourself sit in the chair. Boom. Good. So, what's interesting about this is that you don't have to freeze, you can move. Is that you know how to sit in the chair because I saw you do that.
Right.
Now what happens is when I put my hands on you, I'm interfering in a pattern that you really don't have a lot of awareness of.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how we learn. We learn by bringing our awareness up to where we're doing something that we don't intend to do, and sometimes almost exaggerating it so that we have an opportunity to change it. So here you are sitting in the chair, and here's the top of your head, and you can just allow, without letting you, that's nice, just let that lower back release. It's as if the ribs release, and they do. Because for many of us, when we think of, a little bit less in your neck. Yes, when we think of sitting up straight, for most of us, we do this, and that actually shortens our back rather than lengthening it. So I'm asking you, don't sit up straight. You don't have to sit up straight. There really is no such thing as a straight spine. If you have a straight spine, you feel a lot of pain. And a lot of dancers know that. Particularly with their necks, because they're always attempting to make their necks straight. So I'm going to ask you just to think this, that your neck can release back behind your face. So that there's a clearer sense of your head, which is your jaw as well as this, being somewhat in front of your neck. So I can say this is your neck and this is your jaw. And you don't have to do a thing about it. Just let yourself think about that. It's an interesting idea. And you can just let that release so that your head, again, begins to, in soft, leave your spine. And just keeping your eyes at eye level. Because one of the other things that occurs is that when we have a certain amount of stiffening back here, and the head goes back, when we release it, we feel like we're down. So we accommodate that by looking down. So I say people have very lazy eyelids. So instead of accommodating that feeling, look straight. There's nothing very attractive out there. Imagine a rose garden or whatever. So again, the torso will lengthen and widen. Again, it's an idea. It's not really that you need to do anything. You need to do very little. Just think about this as if you were observing it. And we talk about the shoulders widening. And there again, that is a concept and a thought rather than something you need to do for me. But I'm going to point out to you that you probably know about this from your own work, but sometimes we know it up here and we don't know it in ourselves, that this is your shoulder blade and this is your collarbone or clavicle and scapula, and underneath is your rib cage. And you can think that your shoulder is widening over the side of your body. So as you continue to remember that your neck is very free and that your head is moving delicately up and slightly forward of your neck without grabbing, and I'm going to pull you over. I'm going to come back to giving you this idea that your shoulder can widen out of the center of your torso, and again the head is moving up. And it's just a reminder for you to do nothing about it, but entertain it as an interesting idea. And your shoulder continues to widen so that you're really having a sense of your back supporting you as you're doing this. And the hand is moving right out of the back. Yeah. And the whole spine, the whole torso lengthens. Yes, and you can breathe. You can really breathe. I promise you, you can breathe, and that's nice. Now notice after you took that breath and you gave a little smile, how different things feel. Yeah. So you have to do much less. Actually, you just have to sit here and experience my hand and think about how you were organized. And think about it without having an idea that how it should be. See, we get into these things about we know, even though we pretend we don't know, we do know how we should be. But it's not very clear, because by wanting to get that, we do a lot of other things to ourselves we're not aware of. We do a little bit less. And again, I'm going to indicate to you that underneath your shoulder blade and underneath your collarbone is your ribs, and your shoulder girdle simply hangs like a hanger. And you can think of your head moving up and your whole torso widening and lengthening as your shoulders move. Good. So just use this back to support your arm, and think this for a moment. That if I take my hand away, that you're going to continue to support your arm by letting your whole torso move back and up. Like this. That's it. That's right. Good. So when we talk about the torso, find out what does that mean. And the torso is separate from the legs. So you're going to let yourself think that your torso is moving back and your head is moving up. That's nice. Good. And the neck is free, the head moves up, the torso lengthens wide. And I'm simply going to ask you to follow your head as you let your torso move forward in space with my hand. Just moving on your hip joint. We're not going any place, we're just exploring what it means to let the head lead the spine and movement. Now, it's sometimes a little difficult to do these things with the audience. And of course, you're a performer and you know what it's like. But it's also because we rarely have an opportunity to look at ourselves in this particular way. And we never know what we're going to discover. So if you do it at home alone, at least you're safe, you know. But here it's like, what are we going to discover about? What am I going to discover about you? What are you going to discover about me? I'm sure it's all fine. Good. Now just notice how you are right now. And don't change anything. Simply let your eyes look out the window. And think about where your spine is, because your spine is right up here someplace. And this is torso. So the torso moves in thought, back and up as the leg moves out of the torso. So the defining torso where the hip joint is, where the head of the finger, which is the ball, fits into the socket, which is the torso, the pelvic girdle. And again, with the head moving. And just let your eyes move to the right a little bit. Right? Just look at yourself. I want you to get a sense of how you're looking. And generally for people, it gets a little bit less tension here. And now that your eyes look to the camera. Good. Generally people don't expect to look the way they feel. So it's always a little discombobulating. It's like, who is that? You know. I have in my apartment, I have a little peephole. And there's a mirror in the hallway. And sometimes I have nothing to do with stuff that I'm walking. So if I look out and see people standing there, people doing an amazing amount of funny things, and they're in front of the mirror and observe.
Yeah.
And what's surprising is it's from people I would least expect. Like that you would never think that they would even look at them. So you're going to do a little bit less in here, and a little bit less in your lower back. And just think of your spine mechanism right out of the pubic bone. That's very nice. Good. So again, we're saying this, that the neck doesn't have to do anything to support the head. It doesn't have to move. And that there is a curve here. And we don't want to lose that. If we go back too far, and the reason I'm bringing it up is I know dancers, tend to push their necks back. And then they have vertebrae slipping out all over the place and giving you distorted vision and distorted and headaches and sore teeth and all kinds of things. So you're going to think this, that you're not going to tighten your neck, but you're simply going to think of your head leading your spine. And as you're thinking that, continue to think that and let your knees move out, both legs are moving out, and you're lengthening. You're letting energy move. When you spoke about energy, we do talk about energy, and look straight ahead. So thinking, again, very like this, that your head's going to lead you. In fact, let's wait a second. Let's say no to getting out of the chair because you're so smart. You figured that out already. Yeah. Let's say no to that because it's how. Not that you do it, but the how. And the how is to really think your head moving into my hand. And as you come forward, you're going to press to the floor with your feet and you're going to come up and continue to think that way. Come up. Very slowly. Okay. Now, another way that we can work is on the table. I'm going to come over to the table. I'm going to ask you to take your shoes off. The table. Now,
leave the table here, and I'll move the camera over.
I'm going to leave the table here. I'm going to pull it out a little bit. Move the camera, okay? Yeah, I want to move it. So we have to give Kathy here, which really allows the head to move very freely and independently of the neck. So I'm going to ask you to come back to thinking. And while you're thinking this, just see if you can move a little less back here. That's wonderful. And just let that thought stay with you as you sit on the table. And again, remember, sitting on the table is not what it's about.
Right.
We can get ready. On your mark, get set, go. No, we're not going to do that. Inhibit that spine. So sitting on the table is really very easy. Put your hands behind you and you get yourself on the table. And I'll just keep my hands on you to guide you. Right. Put your nose properly, yes. I'm going to ask you to swing your eyes over there to the blackboard and then swing your feet around. And you have to come out a little bit. Now you're able to sit this way because you have very good hamstring extension. But really the better way to sit is like this. Because it immediately allows reflection, including your ankle, your hip joint, and as you were sitting the way you were on the chair, now you're sitting on the table in that way. It's almost principles apply in whatever we're doing. So, again, my hands are saying neck free, that means less tension in the neck. Less tension in the base of the skull, that the head moves up. And I'm going to ask you to let you drop your nose a bit, down, and I'm going to take it down like that. Doctor, I'm going to have to ask you to move down a little bit more toward the